There's an old adage, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's reserved for anyone who's about to take a leap of faith in hopes of something much greater. Well, these people took that philosophy to new heights. Over the years, Las Vegas has seen some pretty risky, life-altering bets, but gambles don't necessarily mean bets or wagers. Some massive last-minute decisions in science and history actually helped us shape the world as we know it today. As you'll see, sometimes you just have to bet on yourself. These innovators and risk-takers believed in themselves so much that they risked everything to keep their dreams alive. Here are the 10 biggest gambles that paid off huge. FedEx was saved by Blackjack. In 1972, founder and CEO Frederick Smith raised $80 million in loans and equity investments to get FedEx up and running. FedEx began operations in April of 1973, but that same year, a worldwide oil crisis caused fuel costs to quadruple. They were quickly losing $1 million a month and faced certain bankruptcy. At its lowest point, Smith couldn't even pay a $20,000 fuel bill since the company only had $5,000 in the bank. With the company's rapid decline, he couldn't get a single investor to help save it. So he took matters into his own hands. He impulsively flew to Las Vegas and bet that last $5,000 on Blackjack, and ended up winning $27,000. It was just enough to pay the bill and keep FedEx afloat. They soon began seeing profits, and as of July of 2024, the company is now worth a net $75 billion. The entire field of nanotechnology was founded on a bet. In 1959, physicist Richard Feynman wondered why computers had to be the size of entire rooms and why the information in encyclopedias couldn't fit in your pocket. He posed these questions to the West Coast section of the American Physical Society and even bet them $1,000 that they couldn't build a working motor the size of a grain of salt. Mechanical engineer Bill McClellan took that bet and began sending electricity through the tiniest wires and elements that he could create. In only 2.5 months, he created a motor with 2,000 RPMs that measured just 0.4 millimeters on each side. This began what is now the microprocessors that we use in laptops and phones. Today, the iPhone 13, for example, uses a 5 nanometer chip with 15 billion transistors. For context, 1 nanometer is 1 million times smaller than a millimeter. The largest single bet in Las Vegas history. William Lee Bergstrom was born in 1951 in Austin, Texas. He dropped out of the University of Texas in 1974 and became a real estate agent. He was not a great poker player and rarely gambled at all, but one day he heard that Benny Binion, owner of Binion's Casino in Las Vegas, was running a promotion called Sky's the Limit. Bergstrom had almost no money at the time, but he reportedly received a loan for $777,000 from a Texas bank by telling them he planned to purchase gold with it. Instead, he went to Las Vegas with 2 suitcases. One contained the $777,000 and the other was empty. He bet all the money on one roll at a craps table and he won. He paid back the bankers and pocketed the profit. Benny Binion himself congratulated him and helped him pack his empty suitcase. He forever became known as the Suitcase Man. George Lucas bet on himself. This entry actually contains 2 massive gambles, since Star Wars creator George Lucas flip-flopped on his confidence in Star Wars' success. Instead of accepting his $500,000 director's fee, he asked for $150,000 and 100% of Star Wars merchandise and intellectual property rights. It's known as the best business deal in Hollywood history, since in 2012 alone, he sold the Star Wars rights to Disney for $4 billion. But before Star Wars release, he lost confidence in it and thought that his friend Steven Spielberg's movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind would be far more successful. As a friendly wager, Lucas suggested that he swap 2.5% of the movie's profits. Although Close Encounters was well received and profitable, no one could ever have imagined Star Wars' success. It was so profitable that to date, Steven Spielberg has made over $40 million on that one wager. The war that didn't scare John Templeton. Billionaire John Templeton was known as one of the great minds in finance and was named one of Time magazine's most influential people in 2007. But way back in 1938, he was just a low-level trader on Wall Street. His investing strategy was guided by positive thinking, and he took buy low, sell high to ridiculous heights. When the Second World War broke out in 1939, most investors began selling. He took a massive risk by borrowing $10,000 and buying shares in 104 companies that were hitting their rock bottoms. In 4 years, he quadrupled the investment and began growing his empire. He established the Templeton Growth Fund in 1954, and that $10,000 investment in his fund back then became worth over $2 million in 1992. Templeton was also one of the most generous philanthropists in history, giving away over $1 billion to charity causes. One of the most successful losers of all time. In 1969, stable owners Ogden Phipps and Penny Chenery met in the offices of the New York Racing Association for what turned out to be one of the most important coin tosses in sports history. The coin flip was for the ownership of the horse Bold Ruler's firstborn foal. Chenery lost the coin flip and had to settle for his second-born foal, a red chestnut colt with 3 distinctive white socks named Secretariat. While the Phipps family were known as successful breeders, Chenery became something of a legend after Secretariat won the Triple Crown only 4 years later in 1973. He was the first horse to win it in 25 years. Widely known as the most famous racehorse in history, Secretariat graced the covers of Sports Illustrated, Time, and Newsweek, and holds several records that have yet to be broken. Modern physics began with a bet. The idea of gravity had been discussed before Isaac Newton, but no one had ever been able to explain its nature in a true mathematical formula. In 1683, physicist and astronomer Christopher Wren bet 40 shillings that nobody could explain the sun's gravity on planets in 2 months. Newton had already done this, but had never written it down. He was such a grumpy and secretive man that he mainly toiled away on his projects alone, barely mingling with the other great minds. This wager sparked his competitive nature, and he began writing his greatest work, the Principia Mathematica. This book, published in 1687, is the foundation of modern science. His formulas are responsible for our understanding of the universe and huge modern achievements like space travel. He may have lost the bet by not producing the answer in 2 months, but without this bet, Newton's ideas would have never been written down. Literally double or nothing. In 2004, 32-year-old English gambler Ashley Revel bet his life savings on one roulette spin. He sold all of his possessions, even his clothing, gathered up his entire net worth of $135,300, and took it all to Las Vegas. At first, the bet was supposed to take place at the Hard Rock Hotel, but they couldn't ethically accept the wager. Even the Plaza was originally hesitant, but after he explained that the wager was hopefully the beginning of a greater business venture, they accepted. With a film crew there to capture the moment, his friends, family, and interested guests looked on with huge anticipation. He put the entire amount on red, and after what felt like an eternity, the ball landed on red 7. He doubled his money to $270,600 and started the poker website Poker UTD. Today, his net worth is roughly $27 million. Richard Johnson mortgaged his house to buy a single Super Bowl ad. In 1996, Richard Johnson was an early pioneer of the internet and launched the first ever fully interactive job board on the internet, hotjobs.com. His biggest rival, Monster Jobs, was quickly establishing themselves as the main player in the recruitment space, and by 1999, Hot Jobs was on the brink of collapse. Instead of caving under the pressure, Johnson mortgaged his house to spend $1.6 million on a 30-second Super Bowl ad. They raced to write, film, and edit the commercial on a short deadline, and the gamble paid off right away. Only 5 minutes after the ad aired, he noticed a huge spike in site traffic. He was able to generate roughly $25 million from that one ad alone, and only 2 years later, he sold the company to Yahoo for $500 million. Elon Musk bet huge on SpaceX. Elon Musk's first big deal was selling PayPal to eBay for $175 million back in 2002. Then, the same year, he invested $100 million of that money into founding SpaceX. This amount could only afford 3 attempts to launch a rocket into orbit. After 3 of those launches failed, SpaceX was completely out of money and faced bankruptcy. Instead of folding, Musk invested more of his money, and it was just enough to cover a fourth launch, and if it didn't work, SpaceX would have closed for good. After looking at their past mistakes, engineers changed one single line of code, and the fourth launch actually succeeded. The success helped SpaceX land a commercial contract with NASA valued at roughly $1.6 billion. And as of July 2024, SpaceX is valued at $210 billion. But that's all for this time. If you guys enjoyed this, please give it a like, leave a comment, and of course share it. All of those things help me out tremendously in the algorithm, more than you definitely know. And of course, if you want to follow me on all the things, links are in the description, especially Twitch, because I go live almost every single day there. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time.